بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. This is the second part called Al-Hikmatu min as-Siyam. Starting inshallah in these sessions, the part today, Al-Hikmatu min as-Siyam. The wisdom from fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the worship that He had ordained on His servant is a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rahmah, and it has great wisdom. Because the Siyam, as all you know, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Therefore, it is what really the foundation of the journey of a believer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we say 5 pillars is like you build a house and you build the pillars. So it does not mean that the Islam is only restricted to the 5 pillars, that those pillars are the foundation that help the believer to navigate their life and to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every aspect of their life. So every aspect into their life is also worship. So the salat is the backbone, and the siyam, it has a wisdom that really serve in this journey. So some of these wisdom that we're going to see, and by relating this wisdom, one should be mindful of it, because to take benefit and advantage when fasting, inshaAllah ta'ala, of all this wisdom, because he will immerse more into this worship, getting more reward and getting the more blessing from the worship. And the blessing of the worship is really to improve the conduct, to improve the behavior, to purify the soul, to be nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that are the blessings. When a person sees the blessing of the worship, and see the result, that's a sign that your worship is accepted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this type of worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained us to do would help you to have a good life and attain success in this life and the akhirah. The first one of this great wisdom and impact of the siyam is تزكية للنفس وعلاج لها من البطر والأشر. It is the fasting has one of effect is the purification of the self, and to be cured from type of arrogance, from type of greed, and so on. Why? Because the nafs, the self, subhanallah, the nature of the human being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set it on its raw nature, and the raw nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us our instinct, so we'll be able to live this life. Imagine someone, for example, who does not have any love to the money. Therefore, there will not be businesses, there will not be transactions, there will not be society. Imagine someone who does not have that pride of self-esteem. Then everybody, subhanAllah, will be like secluded, nobody wants to come, there's no competition, there will be no race, nothing. So all these aspects that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in the human being that they call desires, are in the raw nature of the human being, so it will be able for us to live, to build, to raise, to want things, to get it. Because if someone, for example, does not have that drive to go get something, he will not get it. Then he will die, maybe even not eating. Why? Because he will not even move. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qala, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَقْتَتَلُوا. If Allah will, nobody has even that desire or that thought that to come against each other and fight. So that, enmity, that anger, all of it is within the human being. However, this raw nature, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made for it the path to use it in the best way possible, so to help a person be happy, joyful, and successful. This raw nature is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it, is the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For this reason, in the hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَالَ كُلُّكُمْ, in the meaning of the hadith, جَائِعٌ إِلَّا مَنْ أَطْعَمْتُهُ. All of you, you'll be starving except the one I feed. كلكم عار إلا من أكسيت. All of you will be naked except the one that I clothe. Which is mean all the good things from Allah. Now, I started with this to have you reflect. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, all of you will be starving except the one I feed. طيب, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing and feeding His servant? There's an action from our part to go work, right? To go, have a salary, or you're gonna plow the earth, put seed, plant it, wait for the harvest, for the crops, and so on. So there is, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm the one who feeding you, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who made this whole process, and this whole process is part of our ibad. SubhanAllah, the same thing exactly for the guidance. قَالَ كُلُّكُمْ ضَالٌ إِلَّا مَنْ هَدَيْتُ. Everyone is astray, except the one I guide. So if you're applying the idea that they have mentioned, reflection, how you get to your food when Allah is the providing. You have to work, you have to act, you have to do your effort. So the same thing for the guidance, you have to make your effort. You have to seek the guidance. You have to beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it, so He will provide it for you, as every one of us does for the food and for anything else that we want. Knowing that the Sawm comes as a guidance to help us stabilize and moderate and put in balance our instincts. So the nature of a human being, when they desire something, they want to get it. So what if that thing that you desire is going to harm you or cause harm of others? So here there is a guidance to say, don't do it. The fasting comes, subhanAllah, to kind of train the nafs, how to moderate itself, how to stop it, how to control it. Because if a person, whatever thing they desire, they get it, it becomes like the nafs, the inner self, this desire part of the self, who's like desiring, it will be the guide of the life of the person. And that's going to ruin the person and corrupt them. Okay. So here, as the nafs known is weak, and does not have any control, so the sawm, the fasting comes, subhanAllah, to restrict it, to kind of, tight on it. And then when doing such a thing, by reducing the food and not actually having food for a whole day and not having like a drink for a whole day, so this becomes like the way how you're training the self. Those desire, when like you open it, and the nafs want everything, the self, and people, they truly indulge into their desires, satisfying all their appetites. That's people who go astray. So when you control it, and you will have the ability to direct it and guide it, that's when you have an upper hand. That's the process of the purification. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qal, so this is a process how you will be striving against your nafs, striving against your self, your low self. Because the self, we have three types of self, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. النفس الأمارة والنفس اللوامة والنفس المطمئنة. النفس الأمارة is the one who will always enjoying evil to you. الأمارة بالسوء. Do this is great for us. Do it, I want this. النفس اللوامة is the nafs who always, that remorsefulness, that will blame you. Don't do this. It's like regret you. What did you have done this? And Allah mentioned this nafs lawama in Surah Al-Qiyamah. And in nafs al-amara, Allah mentioned it in Surah Yusuf, when, the wife of the Aziz, she said, I will not, try to show myself that I'm innocent. I'm not. But it's my nafs who led me to this. And nafs al-amara. And nafs al-mutma'inna is all about what we wish to have. Is the peaceful soul, which is this battle and struggle between both nafs to arise from it or emerge from it. That nafs peaceful, which is a nafs that will be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah mentioned, in Surah Al-Fajr, يَا أَيَّتُهَا النَّفْسُ الْمُطْمَئِنَّةِ ارْجِعِي إِلَىٰ رَبِّكِ رَاضِيَةً مَرْضِيَّةً. Come back to your Lord, pleased and well pleased, and you will be pleased. And this is what we want to get with our siyam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَالَ فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. The one who transgressed and preferred this worldly life over the hereafter, فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, hellfire will be the place of residence. وَأَمَّا مَنْ قَالَ وَأَمَّا مَنْ نَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, the ayah. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this case, He has prohibited His nafs to follow its whims. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. طيب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ, fears the standing before Allah and restrain the self from following the hawa, so the Jannah will be al-ma'wa. Then the fasting is an opportunity and a tool for a person to control oneself. So put this is in mind, your enemy will be your desires, and in Ramadan every desire, even the water, because it becomes haram in the morning. Yeah? So subhanAllah, by controlling that desires, by you controlling it, it will help you. That's the process of the purification. Second, الصوم يضيق مجاري الشيطان التي يجري بها داخل نفس الإنسان. There is subhanAllah channel in which the shaitan circulate, how it moves the shaitan. The shaitan circulate in the body of the human being. How only Allah knows, subhanAllah. This is part of the unseen that we do not know, but we believe it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about it, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about it. And we know that there is an inspiration from an angel and the inspiration from the shaitan, but the inspiration of the shaitan will be bigger when someone is far from Allah, and the inspiration of the angel will be stronger when you are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the shaitan circulates in the body of the human being, subhanAllah, circulates. And he's the one, al-waswasu al-khannas, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned. So in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وهو حديث الصحيحين في البخاري ومسلم, قال إن الشيطان يجري من ابن آدم مجرى الدم. So the shaitan circulates into the body of a human being at the blood, subhanAllah does. Imagine the blood, that's how the shaitan. فالله made, subhanAllah, فيسكن الصيام فيسكن. So the siyam, it will reduce the whispering of the shaitan. So the whispering of the shaitan increases, when he has an ability to circulate, subhanAllah, to come to you from every side. However, when you don't eat, subhanAllah, it reduces the power of the shaitan, if you can call it power. وَتَنْكِسِرُ حِدَّةَ الشَّهْوَةِ وَالْغَضَبِ. And then by doing so, also that, subhanAllah, that desire, the peak, or like the desire, drive will be reduced. The same for the anger, the ability, or like someone have that anger nature, it also will reduce. Therefore, the shaitan does not find ways to get in. Because by fasting, you are reducing this aspect. Shahwa, desire, goes down, anger goes down, of course with one training. Then the shaitan will not find a way to get to the heart of the believer. Add to it that many of the shayateen circulating and helping the shayateen, plotting with the shayateen, all of them are enchained in Ramadan, are enchained, as we mentioned in the other hadith. Therefore, in Ramadan, you will be able to experience the sweetness of the Iman. So you have the opportunity. In Ramadan, the only month when it is in your favor. All the other months, you are in a balance. It depends on what to do, the shaitan attacking you, and the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angel from the other side inspiring you, and this is hadith. But it depends on how you do things. But in Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you this opportunity. He hold the big part that always invading you, that always, subhanAllah, tempting you, is going to hold it back, to hold it for you. Then the only, subhanAllah, try to and make a great goal, inshaAllah ta'ala, to experience the sweetness of Iman in Ramadan. And you have the opportunity for it. So plan for it, plan. When you say plan for it, plan on how to feel truly in focus. Take that time, make time to reflect. Not only think about the fasting, which is refraining from eating, and you're waiting for the Maghrib time to break your fast. No, subhanAllah, think of this aspect. There's things that you wish to have, there are things that you desire. Just in your inner conversation, make those, subhanAllah, an aspect of mujahada. Teach yourself the focus. Teach yourself, the nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can you do that? فإنه سيحرص بإذن الله بعد رمضان. And if you do such a thing, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you to be from ibadullah al-mukhlasin. Because if you train yourself to not let the shaitan, to control your nafs and the shaitan in Ramadan, then you will be able to have a power over the shaitan after Ramadan. Then you become from ibadullah al-mukhlasin, those that the shaitan cannot even get close to in Ramadan or after Ramadan. قال فبعزتك لأغوينهم أجمعين إلا عبادك منهم المخلصين. By your might, Ya Allah, I will lead them astray, all of them except your servants among them who are the sincere ones. So to be sincere, you have an opportunity to make it in Ramadan. When the Prophet ﷺ was talking about everyone has a qareen. Everyone has a qareen. A qareen, one that will be with you all the time. And this qareen from shaitan and qareen from angel. So they said, Ya Rasulullah, do you have a qareen? Do you have one too? That you will be always? He said, yes. Alhamdulillah, Allah helped me with my qareen and he accepted Islam. Yes, shaitan of the Prophet accepted Islam. So when they came to Abu Umar, he said, your shaitan, when he see you coming from the beginning of the street, he ran away the other way. So we want to be like that. Your shaitan, when he see you, he will run away. Why? Because you make him miserable, you disgrace them, you, subhanAllah, you put them into always in a trouble, so they cannot get any benefit from you. They suffocate, they will not even stand to be around you. And this will be a blessing from Allah. You can do it in Ramadan. You can, mashallah, do it in Ramadan. Third, الصوم تخلية للقلب من الشواغل الدنيوية وإعانة له على التذكر والتفكر. Also, the siyam help a person to really, get rid of those inner thoughts. A lot of people, they have a lot of daydreaming and they have a lot of thoughts. There's a saying among the Arab before, قال إذا امتلأت المعدة خمدت الفكرة. When the belly is full, a person cannot think anymore. So when the belly is empty, then you can think. So take the advantage of the siyam also to reflect and ponder. So when you read the Quran, not necessarily that you have to make 10 khatma or 4 khatma. Make, khatma, that's good. But also make a khatma with reflecting. You can read it in Arabic, and those who, subhanAllah, they need to reflect it in their own language or the language that helps them to understand, make a whole Quran, reading it in the meaning to help you reflect. Why? Because your mind will be fertile, subhanAllah, to think. Why? Because you are fasting. عن المقدام ابن معدي يكرب رضي الله تعالى عنه قال صلى الله عليه وسلم ما ملأ ابن آدم وعاء شرا من بطنه. The worst container that the child of Adam would fill is his own stomach. The worst container. Because the ma'idah, the stomach, is a container. The worst container to be filled by the child of Adam is their stomach. Why? Because when they are full, they cannot think, they cannot ponder, they cannot pray, they cannot do anything. All this, what they call it, food coma, they cannot even breathe. So don't do that. If you want to have a beautiful Taraweeh and reflection, you can delay, inshallah, your big meal after Taraweeh. Inshallah. It's not a sunnah, don't say this. The Prophet ﷺ used to continue his siyam. He does not even break the fast. So when some of the companions, they want to copy him, he said, no, don't do that. That's only for me. Inna Allah yut'imuni yaskin. It's Allah who's feeding me, and He's giving me to water. قال حسب ابن آدم أكلات يقمن صلبه. Look, subhanallah. This is the Prophet ﷺ telling us. Now people, all the expert in nutrition and in diet. So the Prophet ﷺ say, few bites are enough to hold strong the backbone of a human being. Few bites. Few bites. Because the mentality of people is always they need to eat. But you only put gas for the car when it needs gas, right? You don't put gas more, the tank will can, the capacity of the tank. So subhanAllah, you eat for the energy to continue work, to continue think, to continue do your task. But eating, that's what the Prophet قال لقيمات or أكلات, and in another narration قال لقيمات, few bites are enough to hold strong the backbone of a human being. فإن كان لا محال, but if the person he cannot help it. قال فثلث طعام وثلث شراب وثلث لنفسه. So he will divide it by 3. A third food, a third for the drinking, and a third part that he will be breathed. So third will be empty. So there is, they have like ma'daba, feast. And they were like talking about this hadith, and everybody get, to the table and someone put like a plate like this. Then he came and he like took the 2/3 and poured it out. But still the plate, told him, what this? He said, that's my third. He said, but it's too much. He said, everyone knows he's third. So it's not like you put like, a whole tray of food and you divide it by 3, said, I'm following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Actually, Al-Imam Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah ta'ala, commenting on this hadith, he said, you stop eating when you're still desiring to eat more. That's how you can regulate your third. You stop eating when you're still desiring to eat. Because you look at your plate, mashallah, you already, ate good amount, But people like going from, everybody. So you stop eating when you're still desiring to eat. That's how you can regulate, inshaAllah ta'ala, the way of eating and taking advantage of, the energy that you get from the food, but also the blessing of having the stomach light so you can do your worship in this case. الصوم عبادة يتقرب فيها العبد إلى ربه. الصوم is great worship with which you get nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? Because you are going to refrain yourself from the things that you love. Not actually things that you love, they are necessities in your life. When you're talking about food, nobody will think to not eat, Nobody will think to not drink. But in the day of Ramadan, you do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's where reside the sincerity. That's where reside the connection. That's why you're saying, when you break your fast, you say, Allahumma laka sumt. To you, Ya Allah, I fast. So powerful. We have to feel it. It's something so big that it's done when you do it. You look at the water in the morning and you say, this is haram for me. Haram, what give you life. haram. And you're doing it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't drink it. When the person will refrain himself and herself from the food, from the drinking, from the intimate relation, then this is how he show his truthfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the truthful iman. And this is how someone can perfect his and her servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their true love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they hoping to get the mercy of Allah. How can truly someone will be truthful in hoping to be embracing the mercy of Allah when they do not have this connection? So in the Ramadan, when you're thinking about this aspect, it's going to make you stronger, nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and increase you in khushu' and in focus. فإن العبد لا يترك محبوبا له إلا لما هو أعظم. In reality, you will not refrain from doing something that you love only for something greater. So you don't drink and you don't eat and you don't do anything of your desire. That cause, of course, to break your fast only for something greater. Greater is your worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And especially here, especially when the believer knows that the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in fasting is by refraining from doing any of this desire, and things are is innate in our nature. It's something that is natural. Drinking, eating, that's natural in us. So you see, subhanAllah, one of the great aspects of the Siyam, that it goes deep to cleanse your soul into very deep down. It's not, for example, like, in certain faith they say, I'm going to give up chocolate this month. They have a fasting to take something, he said. I'm going to give up chocolate, the other one they're going to give up something. That's not the type of fasting. Here goes, subhanAllah, to the necessities of your own life. And that's to help you also break the routine. The routine of being sometimes heedless to be grateful to Allah, to be thankful to Allah. Suddenly in the day of Ramadan, the water becomes something so great. And then you remember there's a lot of people suffering in the world that they cannot have water. There's some people, like our people in Gaza, نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يغثهم ويحفظهم بحفظه. They don't have food, as you can hear and you see. To be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and save ourselves or waken up from the heedlessness of absence or shortcoming in the gratefulness of Allah. Because the drinking, subhanallah, it is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for you. If you remember, or you try to reflect on the water, how it came from the sky and how the whole process for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قال هو الذي أنزل من السماء ماء لكم منه شراب. You have, something to drink from it. Who got it for you? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who stored it into the layers in the earth? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, when you look at it in Ramadan that you cannot drink it, you're going to look at it from different perspective. A perspective of someone is going to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sips of the water that he's going to take at the breaking of the fast, and be more grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have 2 minutes bi'idhillahi ta'ala. As-sawmu sababun lit-taqwa. As-sawm is also a condition or a reason for you to, or a way for us to gain piety, to gain righteousness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the high objective of fasting is at-taqwa. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. Fasting has been prescribed upon you as it has been prescribed on the people before you, that you may gain piety, increase in righteousness. So we have an objective, very clear objective. When you start Ramadan, your objective is to become more righteous, more pious. And Ramadan help you because you are commanded to fast, to abstain yourself from eating, from drinking, from doing things. And that all, subhanAllah, is a preparation for the rest of the command. So if you are able to stop yourself from drinking water, which is a necessity for you, will you not stop by refraining from any temptation, bigger, invitation for haram, invitation to do things, because you train yourself. You train yourself to not even drink water. Then that is going to help you to gain more piety. And then by holding that piety, by subhanallah sustaining that piety, that it's going to make you a greater servant bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال كذلك يبين الله آياته للناس لعلهم يتقون. He made clear for them His ayat that they may be pious, that they might fear Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. And we finish with this hadith. Whoever will not refrain from saying lies, from slandering, from twisting words and acting upon it, he does not have the need to abstain from eating and drinking, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not even regard that. So the fasting here need with the goal of piety. So if we do not put our effort to gain righteousness by refraining from anything that violate the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from lying, from backbiting, from gossiping, from letting loose the gaze, from subhanallah, all the things that really trigger, the triggers for sins, the triggers for desires, make so. There's people, they need to do fasting on social media. He stopped. There's people, subhanallah, I've been heard they always posting picture. More the same face. They change it to some makeup. He don't have, subhanallah, respect or have some haya, So when we're saying, subhanallah, if you truly want piety, there are things that you don't need to do. Said, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. Or at least post things that help other people and help me. Things like, related to Ramadan, reminders and things. But to post things, subhanallah, that, conflict with the true haya of a Muslim, that's your fasting is not going to work. So don't think what the Prophet ﷺ saying, قَوْلُ الزُّورِ وَالْعَمَلِ بِهِ, slandering and saying falsehood and all of that. The falsehood now, it can be done on all these platforms of social media. And it is done. So the fasting for a person need to cleanse themselves to regard all these aspects that is really killing their time. Fasting is not killing time. Don't say, there is 2 hours for the breaking of the fast, I'm going to do this. Like killing the time. No, this is a time that Allah offered you in your life to make it, subhanAllah, blessed time. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us fulfill all the wisdom of fasting by increasing in piety and be nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, increasing focus and khushu'. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and grant us the great favor to reach Ramadan. Allahumma ballighna Ramadan ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakum.